the day you are born, you begin to grow and mature. Sometimes, it's not easy on the folks around you.
Make sure you get on the right bus coming home.
Bye!
Bye!
Oh, what happened?
Oh, you're all right.
What happened?
Oh, he had his mouth.
You're okay. Go on.
A high point of growing up occurs when the juices start running, and you begin to move physically from boyhood to manhood. But this, too, is sometimes not easy on the folks around you.
George, I think it's about time you and I had ourselves a little talk. You know, about the birds and bees, the facts of life.
So, maybe as a young teenager, you thought you knew all about the facts of life. But chances are, there were a few important things you didn't know. Even though you may have gotten a pretty good rundown at the time, there still may be things you're not sure of. So, here's your chance to learn about what has been happening to you as a male at a very important time of your life. It's a fact of life that from the moment of birth, your body begins maturing. Not long ago, it got to the point where it became sexually mature and able to reproduce itself. This means you've taken a giant step toward manhood and a place in adult society. As you know, the bodies of men and women are physically designed to mate, to reproduce, to have babies. This mating is called sexual intercourse. Your ability to reproduce began somewhere between the ages of 13 to 16. We call this point puberty, the time when your body begins to mature sexually. In girls, it usually happens a few years earlier. You know when your body starts maturing sexually because important changes take place. Your physical appearance begins to change. Your emotions are affected, and your social life takes a new direction. During this changeover period, your muscles and bones grow thicker and stronger. Hair appears on your body and on your face. Your reproductive organs grow larger, and your voice grows deeper. Changes also take place in the female during the maturing process, as she becomes capable of giving birth to a child. At this time, both male and female develop what is called the sex drive, a normal emotional process that makes each increasingly interested in the opposite sex. All these changes are nature's way of preparing you for adulthood, when you are expected to be on your own, to seek a mate, and begin a family. The period between sexual maturity and marriage is difficult and confusing for young people in our complex society. On one hand, you have become physically ready to have children. On the other hand, you're not yet ready to make your way on your own as a family man in the adult world. Good physical and emotional health in this transition period requires you to understand the changes that have taken place in your body and to recognize that self-control is desirable in relationships with the opposite sex. As a male, the focal point of sexual maturity is found in your reproductive organs. Located outside your body, they include the penis and the testicles. Soon after birth, the testicles drop into a two-chambered pouch called the scrotum. For centuries, they have been the symbol of masculinity, and rightly so. For at puberty, they start producing the male sex hormones, chemicals called androgens, of which testosterone is the principal one. These hormones are carried to all parts of your body by the blood and cause physical and emotional changes in your body, including your sex drive. Testosterone also stimulates the development of sperm cells that grow inside a cluster of fine, tightly coiled tubes contained in each testicle. Billions of these tiny sperm cells are produced in the testicles every month. Any one of them can fertilize an egg in the female body to begin the life cycle of a baby. As they continue to be produced, they overflow from the testicles into two larger coiled tubes called vas deferens, connected to the testicles inside the scrotum. In the early stages of their development, these cells are highly sensitive to heat. They are able to develop properly because they're kept at just the right temperature in the scrotum outside the body. The sperm cells continue their movement up each of the vas deferens tubes to storage sacs within the body called seminal vesicles. Close by is the prostate gland, where a whitish fluid is manufactured to carry, nourish, and protect the sperm cells. The mixture of this fluid with the sperm cells is called semen. When the semen leaves the body, it moves down a tube called the urethra that runs the length of the penis. The penis is the means of delivering semen to the female. At birth, the head of the penis is covered by a thin layer of skin called the foreskin. Frequently, this skin is removed in a minor operation called circumcision. When the foreskin is not removed, a cheesy material called smegma collects underneath, causing an offensive odor and sometimes infection. Uncircumcised males can prevent this by making sure the area under the foreskin is kept clean. Of course, a major function of the penis is serving as the body's outlet for urine. Urine is stored in the bladder and leaves the body through the urethra. The connection from the bladder to the urethra closes when semen is discharged. A discharge of semen is almost always preceded by an erection. This occurs when certain types of stimulation, mental or physical, cause outlets for blood in the penis to be closed off. Since the incoming blood has no return path, it is dammed up, causing the penis to swell. It becomes firm and hard and erect, ready for intercourse. A muscular action of the erect penis causes the discharge of the semen. This is called ejaculation. Some men cannot have an erection, and therefore may not be able to have intercourse or to ejaculate. They're said to be impotent. This can occur for emotional reasons, and in such cases is often temporary. On the other hand, other men are perfectly capable of erection, intercourse, and ejaculation, but their testicles do not produce enough active sperm cells. They are said to be sterile. The difference in their sperm is quite noticeable through the microscope. These are active sperm cells in normal semen. Note how they resemble tadpoles, each with a head and a long active tail. This is how the cells look in the semen of a man who is sterile. The cells are fewer in number and less active, and they may be deformed. Neither impotency nor sterility has any bearing on how manly you look or act. Manliness results from the male hormone testosterone and is not related in any way to the production of sperm cells or the inability to ejaculate. Remember, in a normal male, the testicles are constantly manufacturing male hormones and distributing them through the body. At the same time, they're also manufacturing and storing sperm cells. This brings up an important point. It just stands to reason that if you manufacture and store something long enough, you're going to have an overflow problem. To take care of this, nature gives you a safety valve. Once in a while, the stored semen lets go. You have what we call a nocturnal emission, a wet dream. In some men, emissions may even occur during the daytime. Wet dreams may be a little messy, but they're perfectly normal. They don't mean you're oversexed. They cause no harm or fatigue or emotional upset. They have nothing to do with disease. In fact, they're a sign of good health. And let me say once more, losing semen in wet dreams or other ways does not cause a loss of your masculinity. The hormones that give you your masculine traits are not released in the semen. Now, let's move to the reproductive organs of the female. In many ways, they are similar to the males, except most of the female organs are located inside the body, of course. The external parts of the female organs are collectively called the vulva. The vulva includes the lips or labia that protect the opening of the inner organs, the clitoris, a tiny sensitive organ that resembles a miniature male penis, and just inside, the hymen, a membrane that tends to narrow the opening. The hymen may be rigid, quite pliable, or may appear not to exist at all. Its presence or absence is no proof that a girl has experienced sexual intercourse. Behind the hymen is the vagina, the canal that leads to the organs of reproduction. It holds the penis during intercourse. The vagina leads to the uterus, or womb, a hollow, elastic organ that protects and nourishes a developing child before birth. The other reproductive organs include the ovaries, two small but important glands that resemble the male testicles and contain the woman's lifetime supply of tiny egg cells, usually about 10,000. The fallopian tubes carry the egg cells from the ovaries to the uterus. When a girl reaches 12 to 15 years of age, her ovaries begin to manufacture female hormones called estrogens. These hormones are distributed by the blood to all parts of the body and cause the physical and emotional changes in a female, just as the male hormones produced by a man's testicles cause his masculine characteristics. The hormones also cause the immature eggs in the ovaries to begin to develop. About once a month, an egg from one ovary matures and is discharged. It moves into the fallopian tube toward the uterus. This is called ovulation. During this time, the uterus undergoes a change. Its lining thickens with new blood vessels and tissues that will become the nesting place for the egg to grow, should it become fertilized by union with a sperm cell. The egg usually takes about 4 days to make the journey. This is the girl's monthly fertile period, the time when she can become pregnant if she has intercourse. If the egg is not fertilized, the thickened lining of the uterus has nothing to nourish. It breaks apart, comes loose from the wall of the uterus, mixes with small amounts of blood and tissue fluids, and flows into the vagina and out of the body. This is what is known as menstruation. It usually lasts about 5 days and is what a girl refers to as her period. The time from the start of one period to the next is called the menstrual cycle. In most girls, the menstrual cycle repeats on a regular basis about every 28 days. Many other girls have regular cycles of different duration. Some girls may have cycles at irregular intervals. In many cases, this occurs only occasionally when the girl is ill or under emotional stress. Now let's see what happens when the female has intercourse during her fertile period. The mature egg has begun its 4-day journey down the fallopian tube. The penis ejaculates semen into the vagina. Millions of tiny sperm cells begin to move up into the uterus and fallopian tubes. These cells are propelled forward by their long active tails. As many as 500 million may be in a single ejaculation. When a single sperm cell penetrates the egg, fertilization takes place. This is the start of another human being. The fertilized egg starts to grow immediately as it continues on to the uterus, and there it plants itself in the rich lining. The female is pregnant. The menstrual cycle stops, and no other eggs will develop in the ovaries until after the baby is born, about 9 months later. Of course, there are methods and devices used to prevent the sperm cell from fertilizing the female egg, but none are completely foolproof. For this reason, you would be wise to consider sexual intercourse in its natural role, the way to have a baby. The reproductive organs play an important part in the lives of all young men and women. They help make you the kind of person you are. They will enable you to have a family. They should be protected from injury or disease. This takes extra care for you as a male, because your organs are outside your body. Damaging injuries can be avoided by wearing a protective supporter and the proper uniform when engaged in sports activities. Certain diseases are a special problem, too. Mumps contracted as an adult can result in sterility. So it is important to see the doctor whenever the glands below your ear become painful and enlarged. Obviously, this is especially important if you have been exposed to mumps. Venereal diseases can also produce sterility, damage to the reproductive organs themselves, or even physical disability. It's just good sense to avoid contacts that could result in VD. What we have been talking about in this film is the purely physical side of human reproduction. But there is much more to the union of a male and female. Nothing in life is more rewarding to a man than the love, understanding, and mutual response that comes from a rich and meaningful relationship with a woman. In our society, this occurs in marriage. It is what most young men set as one of the major goals of their lives.